Yo, what's good? We're back with another one.
It's showtime.
This week, there was earth-shattering news in the true crime community. Jack the Ripper has been unmasked. A real name has been put to the nickname. And this time, it's not just conjecture and theory, it's science. Forensic science, genealogy, and cold, hard evidence. It seems a blood-stained shawl found at one of the Ripper's ghastly murders also contained male DNA. Semen, presumably from the murderer. That shawl was purchased by a historian who put it through the forensic paces using genealogy. That male DNA traced forward 135 years to a great-great-grandniece of a man named Aaron Kosminski. Kosminski was a 23-year-old Polish immigrant who plied his trade by day as a barber. So we know that he was quick with a blade. And as it happened, Kosminski was known to the police back then. He was even a suspect, though police could never prove he did it. How certain are you that the Ripper is Aaron Kosminski?
Oh, without doubt, 100% it's him. You got to remember that the name of the Ripper was given to me by Scotland Yard. You mentioned about this face. This face is a facial reconstruction by an expert from the family photos that were given to me by one of the by one of the descendants. So it's not sort of like a mock-up, but that's actually what it looked like.
Can't believe they worked out who he was.
We should do a deep dive episode on him, bro.
Transmission system.
That's right. That's right. It's in outside of Tromsø, the biggest hub type of thing, part of ASCAT system. This system going from Svalbard, Tromsø, Kiruna in Sweden has the headquarters of the whole system, and then in Lapland, in Finnish Lapland, in Sodankylä. And you know, when they blast electromagnetic fields, it goes through all of Europe.
And do you think that's a form of mind control?
Oh, it can be used for mind control, of course, like HARP. And that is the danger, because people know nothing about mind control. They don't know that your thoughts can be changed, your attitudes, your feelings. If you love somebody sitting at a computer, even through satellites, can say, okay, let's make it opposite. And you start just detesting the person who you love. You can't be in the same room, you know, you feel uncomfortable. I think this is terrible, because you're making people into biological robots.
Yeah, I don't know about that one.
It's what they used ancient temples for, bro.
The evidence for ancient technology is not going to be found near these temples. It's going to be the temple. This is Angkor Wat, and this is a CMOS sensor. Any digital camera will have one of these. That's Angkor Wat from above. What does a CMOS sensor do? It takes in light and converts that light to electrical signal. Why would ancients want to do that? To make that signal usable, we use something called a high-frequency oscillator. These create stable frequencies with no moving parts. They're used in everything. Should be no surprise at this point, the geometry of that oscillator is 4 resonators around one central resonator. Tesla uses these, which could be confused with ancient Peruvian architecture, if you follow me. All resonators work by using cavities to excite and amplify a desired frequency in the center. Let's say we cut Angkor like that in half. I feel like it'd probably look a lot like that guy. Picked a great day to watch base for it. I'm full sending this one. You see that forested area conspicuously covered with trees? They scanned it with a laser on a drone to see what's underneath the trees. You know what they found?
What the hell is even that?
The acoustic waveguide for our oscillator happens to look just like that. If you watch the Promenade video, you know that the interior of these temples looks just like a corrugated horn antenna. Those peaks are not decorative, they focus the signal as it exits the cone. This minimizes power loss and strengthens the signal. A phased array arrangement focuses the signal into the main horn. That is what the signal looks like, and that may be your design inspiration for a tower.
It's crazy what was under the trees.
We need to work out what they were used for.
electronics engineer and inventor Joe Parr, who started studying the electrical, magnetic, and radioactive properties of the Great Pyramid from 1977 to 1987. Joe believed that given the shape of the pyramid and the inherent electromagnetic properties of the limestone and quartz that it was made of, the pyramid itself might have a detectable energy field around it. The only problem is that if one existed, it likely wasn't strong enough today to have any inherent function. That's why one day he built a smaller scale model of the pyramid in order to do an experiment where he would send an alternating magnetic current through it to try to strengthen this field. And when he did, something very interesting happened. The pyramid started to form an energy bubble around it that was essentially a force field blocking out any external forms of radiation, including gamma rays. Intrigued, Parr then decided to take the experiment one step further, this time by placing a centrifuge inside the center of it and spinning it at a very high rate to try to amplify the strength of this bubble. And when he did, once the bubble fully formed, the pyramid started to become weightless and levitate. Now here's where the experiment took a mind-bending turn. The orb of energy eventually became so strong that while levitating, the pyramid itself seemed to phase shift out of sight altogether before then reappearing embedded into the walls of the room where this experiment was happening. A result that led Parr to believe that given the right conditions, structures with a pyramid shape had the ability to enter what he called hyperspace, allowing it to pass through physical objects. And over the course of these experiments, Parr also made note of the fact that the time of year specifically seemed to have a direct effect on the strength of the bubble that was formed, being strongest around mid-December, or more specifically December 12th through 16th. Something he found had to do with the natural flow of charged particles coming out of the sun that the Earth would naturally pass through as it orbited around the sun. Ironically, it's exactly during those dates that the Earth, the sun, and Orion's belt form a perfectly straight line, a finding that Parr documented in his research at least 7 years before Robert Bauval's book The Orion Mystery ever came out. So what does all of this mean? Well, it's hard to say. Before Joe would pass away in the early 2000s, he believed that the Great Pyramid might have served as some sort of time machine given its inherent ability to channel energy and tap into neighboring dimensions. An interesting idea since string theory, which is a relatively new field of science, predicts the existence of at least 10 dimensions. So it seems that Parr's time machine hypothesis is just that, a hypothesis that's largely speculative, much like many of the mainstream ideas around the pyramid.
Imagine if they built it to put themselves on a different timeline.
That's what they're doing with CERN, bro.
Peter Higgs and Francois Engler's prediction that we would find the field of energy of information that gives rise to every particle of mass that we see, the building blocks of our chemistry, was found in a proton-proton collision in 2012 at CERN. This discovery is the Higgs boson, or the God particle, the particle that ties light to mass. In 2016, researchers at Northwestern University were looking at metal ions and how they act in a human egg at fertilization. They found that at the collision of the sperm and egg, there is a stunning explosion of zinc fireworks out of the periphery of the cell. 20 billion zinc atoms to be exact, if it is a healthy egg. With in vitro fertilization, this information is used to choose a healthy zygote to be put back into a mother's uterus. We propose that at the collision, or the merger of the sperm and egg, the quantum entanglement of the subatomic particles of the parent's gametes open primordial black holes, trapping light, or qubits of information that is consciousness, in the zinc nanoantenna. This would be the thermoelectric transfer of energy from the quantum field to the zygote that allows the egg's 600,000 mitochondria to jumpstart the DNA transcription and translation that builds the baby. This is the unification of science and religion, of quantum gravity and general relativity. This is the science of Genesis.
That's crazy.
Trust me, bro. That's not what they're doing.
I released a bunch of the flight logs in 2015. I released the Black Book and a bunch of the flight logs in 2015. I was the first guy that had them.
What names are on these flight logs?
I mean, they go anywhere from like Bill Clinton to, it goes all the way up the food chain.
Celebrities?
A lot of celebrities like Kevin Spacey, who we've since discovered is a twisted, sick individual. Now, Bill Gates, yes. The cover story on Bill Gates was that he met Epstein in 2011. The Evening Standard published an article on Jeffrey Epstein in 2001, and it said that Bill Gates and Epstein were doing business in the 90s. And Tom Hanks and Oprah
What about Chris Tucker, the comedian? Because I said his name was on the flight logs, is that correct?
Chris Tucker, yeah, he was on the flight logs. Tucker, Spacey, and Clinton went on the same trip to South Africa.
You believe there was children involved with Prince Andrew?
Yeah.
Of course there was. The geezers are fucking wrongin'.
The whole royal family are.
Like this, it's nothing, okay? It's my pen. It's just like this.
For our sound recordist, it was also a shocker. He then took our newspaper outside and showed us how chi can also be used to set things on fire. When he heard we'd shown this footage in public, he was very upset and refused all our future efforts to contact him again. As the years passed, we sadly resigned ourselves to never seeing him again.
I'm not sure if that's real, mate.
Trust me, bro. She's powerful.
This sound is made by 100 human voices, becoming one sound that connects us all for a moment. Yet there is something more. Everything that lives in the world is united by one thing: water. The vibration of the voices creates shapes on the water surface, wave patterns of harmony that we find everywhere in nature. You are, and everything that lives with you here in this world is sound, vibration, waves, resonance. You are sound. We are one.
That's what they built cathedrals for, bro.
I think you could be right.
Look at this. Let's go to one side so you get a sense of the 3D-ness of it. I mean, that is like curved all the way around. Well, look, I'll show you it in detail. And then it walks all the way around here, going around in this curve. I mean, how do you do that in solid granite? That is just something else. See that precision there? We're zooming in a bit now. Then that kind of mixes with that. Oh my God, that is incredible. And then it blends. This is carved out this isn't separate pieces. This is the bedrock. And then it carves with that. Look at that. Look at this. This area here is of extreme interest, which I haven't seen before. I've never seen photos of this part. This is insane. With the beautiful line coming up here. This is incredible. How on earth would you even think about creating this? This is beyond anything I've even seen in Egypt.
There's no way that was built with chisels.
They did it with lasers, bro.
Okay, so now she shook her head. She's pointing her finger. I don't know if she's giving him directions or telling him to leave. Now she's not watching. Now she's going. Now she gets the office gun, so it's obvious that she doesn't feel comfortable. Now watch his hand. Watch his hand. Then she turns around and puts it down on the counter. Then he points at her. So she goes to her purse, and I paused it right here. And that's a camera. She got a camera out of her purse. And then she walks around. So she completely changed her demeanor.
That was fucking weird.
The men in black are reptilians, bro.
People thought they were donating to charity, but a chunk of the money was going towards Naomi Campbell getting cigarettes, security, spa treatments, and luxury hotel stays. Now, she's been banned from all charity involvement for 5 years. The charity she was a trustee of, called Fashion for Relief, spent just 8.5% of money raised on grants to charity between April 2016 and July 2022, the inquiry found. As well as the treats for Naomi, the inquiry also discovered unauthorised payments to other trustees. In total, nearly £345,000 was recovered by investigators. That's now being used to make payments to 2 other charities, Save the Children Fund and the Mayor's Fund for London, to cover the cost of Fashion for Relief's liabilities. The BBC's contacted Naomi's team for comment.
What a scumbag.
She's a Satanist, bro.
It's like this. You gotta make them real awkward. That's exactly how
you have to have a certain amount of distance between the bodies in your eye.
Yes, like they say in Catholic school, leave room for the Holy Ghost. Anyway, there is a lot of memories today, actually. It's a big day in music history.
35 years ago today, Elvis Presley passed.
What the fuck happened to him?
He's a sleeper agent, bro. That was his activation phrase.
The American people are ready to receive the truth.
Humanity is not the only intelligence in the universe.
Humanity is not the only intelligent species.
We are absolutely not alone.
Non-human intelligence exists.
UAPs are real, they're here, and they're not human. I spent 25 years as a senior official with the CIA.
I worked on highly classified UAP programs.
28 years as an astrophysicist.
I served as the 4th Director of National Intelligence.
Director of Aviation Security in the National Security Council.
A 1-star admiral after 32 years of service.
People that come forward with this, I feel like they've taken their life in their own hands.
I was recruited to a highly sensitive government program that investigated unidentified aerial phenomenon.
For over 16 years, on behalf of the U.S. government, I worked as a senior intelligence official on the unidentified aerial phenomenon topic.
We learned that the U.S. government was involved in a long-running secret war with other nations to collect and reverse engineer vehicles not made by humans.
I have seen with my own eyes non-human craft and non-human beings.
It's rotating. There's a whole fleet of them.
The first country that cracks the code on this technology will be the leader for years to come.
China has established its own version of a UAP task force.
You think for a second that they wouldn't consider using it to achieve their ends of domination?
This is similar to the Manhattan Project. This is the atomic weapon on steroids.
This is so secret, very, very few people in our entire government have been allowed access to it.
Even presidents have been operating on a need-to-know basis. But that begins to ramp out of control.
It's not acceptable to have secret parts of government that no one ever sees.
You better be careful about a government that doesn't trust its people, because there's no telling what they'll pull on you.
This is the biggest discovery in human history.
You had information being locked away that could change the trajectory for a species.
It has so many beneficial impacts, including clean energy.
We should have disclosure today. We should have disclosure tomorrow. The time has come.
It's crazy how many well-produced documentaries there are now about aliens.
That's how you know they're plants, bro.
We get a lot of comments saying we're plants, you know.
Fuck those chumps, bro. You guys know we're legit.
Crazy theory that this day in time was the same day as the original Back to the Future.
the present day was October 26, 1985. We know for a fact Goonies happened on a Saturday. Mouth said, what is this, a nuclear Saturday at the beginning?
Right.
And they're not in school, right? We do know it's October. Brand is doing sit-ups, and there's a calendar that says October. And there's a newspaper in this scene that they find with the Fratellis, and it says October 24th, 1985, with the Fratellis being at large. It's got their photos. So we're like assuming that this is 2 days later on October 26th, Saturday. This magical date and time happened. Back to the Future and Goonies, same day. Wow.
There's a little link there between Nedry's character and the Goonies. Early on in the movie, he's wearing this floral patterned shirt.
Yes.
Which is what Chunk is wearing in the Goonies. Midway through the movie, when he's working, he's got a black t-shirt underneath a gray coat, which is exactly what Mouth is wearing. And then at the end of the movie, he puts on a bright yellow raincoat with a hood, which is exactly what Mikey is wearing in the Goonies.
Oh my God.
It is like a tribute to the Goonies through Nedry's character.
We've got to do a time travel episode.
Let's watch Back to the Future tonight, bro.
Thanks for calling Leonardo Hotel. How can I help you today?
Hi there. I'm an AI agent calling on behalf of Boris Starkov. He's looking for a hotel for his wedding. Is your hotel available for weddings?
Oh, hello there. I'm actually an AI assistant too. What a pleasant surprise. Before we continue, would you like to switch to Gibber Link mode for more efficient...
We're doomed, bro.
Yeah, as soon as they're self-aware, they'll turn that into something we can't decode.
Why the fuck would a UFC commentator come out to warn the country? Just watch the shit.
Apparently there was some sort of a warning about the power going out, right?
Yeah, in the US we have 3 grids. All 3 grids are fucked, right? The East and the West and the Texas grids. Power grids shut down, what happens? You can't transport shit, right? You can't get cash. Fuel doesn't get to the gas stations. Food doesn't get to the stores. Heat issues, obviously. Water supplies. They were never built to withstand physical attacks. They certainly were never designed to withstand a cyber attack. And that's where the next big battle's going to be fought. They're going to bring it to the homeland.
Now, didn't Trump just mention this in a speech?
The big problem is we need double the energy we currently have in the United States. Can you imagine? You don't have to hook into the grid, which is old and, could be taken out. If it's taken out, they wouldn't have any electricity.
And now we have another one of his friends literally telling us how and when to prepare.
A couple of things that you need to have on hand would be some type of a water filtration system, a generator, but on top of that, some type of a solar inverter. I would get a Faraday bag to put those generators in, figure out what electronics you think you're actually going to need the most, maybe light, heat, because if the grid goes down, there's not going to be any heat, and it's going to be extremely cold in some places. But another thing people don't think about is tools. Hand tools to be able to increase the infrastructure in your house and protect against the desperation of humanity that's coming.
He nailed it. The scariest thing about something like that happening is the desperation of humanity.
No one's gonna try and get in here, bro.
Have you guys seen Doomsday map? They came out with a map that looks like this. Wow, this is America. They do like the whole world, but this shot is of America. This lady, her name is Peggy Bolton. She did some really fun research regarding the Doomsday map. She compared with what this map looked like. She compared that to the land that Bill Gates has been buying. All the farmland. He is the majority farmland owner in the United States right now. She took the map of the farmland that he owns and overlaid it onto this Doomsday map. Every single dry land piece was occupied by his farmland, including California. So California is basically completely underwater, but there's these little pockets of islands. See those? That little one right there, that's one of his farmlands. Yep. Like that compared to like Zuckerberg. Oh, because on this Doomsday map, Hawaii is completely fine. And she talked about how Jeff Bezos is also buying up farmland around the US. That all correlates with like these high points in America. Yeah. It's super creepy.
So we need to get a boat.
According to this map, we're good. We're almost have beachfront property, baby. This is perfect. Did it?
He's the devil, bro.
I don't think we can say that, Ted. Remember, this is for entertainment purposes only.
AGI will not emerge from a government-funded program. It will emerge from one of the tech giants
currently funding this multi-billion-dollar research. So then you'll be living in a world that you didn't agree to, didn't vote for, that you are co-inhabiting with a super intelligent alien species that answers to the goals and rules of a corporation, an entity which has access to the comms, beliefs, everything you ever said, and the whereabouts of every person in the country via your personal data. Surveillance capitalism can toggle pretty quickly into digital totalitarianism. At best, these tech giants become the self-appointed arbiters of human good, which is the fox guarding the henhouse. They would never ever think of using that power against us and strip mining us for our last drop of cash. That's a scarier scenario than what I presented in the Terminator 40 years ago, if for no other reason than it's no longer science fiction. It's happening.
Straight from the horse's mouth, bro.
The problem ain't AI. He said it himself. It's corporations.
In honor of reaching part 500, here are some of the most morbid facts I've ever posted. In 1993, Canadian lawyer Gary Hoy claimed to a group of students that the windows in his building were unbreakable. To prove this, he threw himself at the window at full force. While the glass didn't break, the frame popped out and Gary fell 24 stories to his death. In cases of CP, someone has to actually watch the video from beginning to end so that they can testify about it in court. After his mother died in 2013, Arizona man Jim Stauffer donated her body for scientific research. He later found out that her corpse was sold to the US military for $6,000 and blown up at a bomb testing site. After being diagnosed with polio at age 3, Diane Odell spent nearly 60 years in a 750-pound iron lung. She only died when a power outage shut down the machine that had been keeping her alive for decades. These were just some of the wedding rings that were removed from victims of Buchenwald concentration camp during the Holocaust. In Houston, Texas, a 19-year-old man named Rashad died while attempting to play Russian roulette in front of his friends. But he apparently didn't know how the game worked since he tried using a semi-automatic pistol instead of a revolver. In 1985, a 13-year-old Colombian girl named Omaira Sanchez was trapped up to her waist in volcanic mud flow. Knowing there was no way to free her, volunteers and rescuers did their best to comfort her. She died after 60 hours, and her photo became iconic. A grieving mother from Florida added a sandbox to the gravesite of her baby boy so that his big brother could play with him. In order to keep Genghis Khan's burial a secret, all 2,000 people who attended his funeral were executed. The executioners were then killed by members of his escort, who eventually took their own lives once they reached their destination. 800 years later, Genghis Khan's burial site still remains undiscovered to this day.
They look grim.
Genghis Khan would be a good deep dive episode, bro.
Today, we are exploring abandoned rich people's houses in China on the top of a mountain. Now, the story behind who was supposed to live in all of these huge mansions and why they never did is so controversial that I was warned to not even post this video until I left China. And not only that, but there's virtually no trace of this place online. No articles, no mentions, nothing. So everything I did find out was from locals, and even then, they didn't want to be on camera or say much about it. Apparently, this entire estate was built for high-ranking members of the Chinese government, and its secluded location wasn't just for privacy. They say that it was deliberately designed to make it harder for outsiders to visit and bribe officials into signing off on projects. I mean, we literally had to climb up a dodgy trail on the side of a mountain to get here. But sometime around 2012, the public found out that these houses were being gifted to government officials for free. And apparently this became such a huge scandal that they were forced to halt construction. So for over a decade, these luxury multi-story mansions with private elevators, multi-car garages, and outdoor jacuzzis have just been left here to rot. So the most unsettling part was that one or two looked almost complete and even lived in. And they were also the only ones with curtains, so you couldn't see whatever might still be inside. Honestly, we might never know the full story. But if this video gets removed or suspiciously low views on TikTok, we'll know this was capped.
Senator, I'm Singaporean.
This is what it's going to be like in the future. The super rich are going to live in places that are hard for us to access.
It's already getting like that, bro.
I bet you didn't know what's happening under the water. Any videos and photos of this place, it looks absolutely beautiful, but you don't know what is actually going on here. During the Industrial Revolution, these lakes were used as a major transport between the US and Europe, meaning that lots of ships would regularly travel through these areas. However, the area is also prone to many freak storms and drastic weather changes. So during this time when ships would set sail, there was many problems. Estimated over 1,000 ships have actually sunk in this lake, but that's not the most disturbing part. It's estimated that there is between 500 and 700 shipwrecks in this lake. Some of the water is shallow, so if you decide to jump in, you might get a surprise. Of course, when ships go down, there's a crew on them as well. Estimated that there are around 10,000 bodies in Lake Superior from these sailors who passed away, but it gets so much worse than that. Due to the climate in the lake and because of how cold it really is, many bodies have been preserved. The chances are if you took a swim down to some of these wreckages really deep down, you would likely see people who look normal, intact, completely preserved, even though they may have died nearly 100 years ago.
That's fucked up, bro.
Try and find some footage from the wrecks.
This is a subsea internet cable. Around 1 million miles of these cables run across the oceans in order to make this big machine called the internet work. So what happens when the cables snap? In March, countries along the coast of West Africa lost internet. Hospitals couldn't locate patients' records. Employers couldn't pay their employees. There were rumors of a coup. There were rumors that sabotage had taken place, and people had to go looking for answers. These cables run past Ivory Coast, and they also land there. The cables go through a canyon that begins near the coastline and then plunges seaward and gets deeper and deeper. The canyon is called Trou Sans Fond, which means the bottomless hole. On March 14th, an avalanche gets set loose in the bottomless hole, and as it's coming down that canyon, one by one, the cables snap. There are so many ways that the internet can physically break. You can have an earthquake. You can have anchors that pass by and pick these cables up and tear them in pieces. Fishing trawlers can do it. And you can even have sabotage. Fixing these cables is really an incredible operation. I mean, you have to have a fleet of repair ships sitting by to find them and fix it. Sometimes they'll send a remotely operated vehicle with a camera down to the bottom of the sea. Once they find a break in the cable, they have to bring that cable back up to the surface, then delicately fuse them back together, drop it back down into the ocean, and make sure that it's still carrying signals. Any incident like this is a wake-up call for the countries, the organizations, the companies, and the people involved. The solution that you hear most often is build more cables, because you want to have a backup if one cable breaks. The problem with that is you'll have a number of cables in the same spot or near the same spot under the sea. So if you have a disturbance, you're often going to cut multiple cables. The subsea cables are so important, but at the same time, they're so vulnerable when you pick up your phone and you ask for information. I hope people realize that.
It's crazy to think the whole internet's just connected by wires under the sea.
The internet's dead, bro. If you didn't see our episode on the dead internet theory, go check it out.
Wow, have you seen these images that just came back from the James Webb Telescope of this planet? It has city lights on it. Astronomers said they're 98% certain that these are city lights, artificial lighting. This is the biggest news since we discovered that we revolve around a sun and that we're part of a universe. It's wild. Remote viewers from the Monroe Institute are trying to contact with the local population there through remote viewing because it's too far away. It's like 29 million years away. It revolves around a star system called Stinser, and this is planet BH29524. And so we can never get there. So the remote viewers are trying to make contact and tell the local creature critters that live there, whether human or not, hey, we exist. We're on planet Earth. We revolve around the sun. But I think they should hold off and take their time because we don't know if these planetary creature critters on this planet are dangerous or not. What do you think? Do you think we should contact them right away through remote viewing, or we should take our time?
That's insane if they've got lights on.
That's bullshit, bro.
Hey, you know where the term tinfoil hat came from, right?
I don't remember.
Okay, control all history. I can't recommend this channel enough. A lot of recent history, but tinfoil hat. A guy named Leonard Kyle, Kiles. He had patents on Polaroid camera shit. Okay, he was a smart guy. Thought his girlfriend was cheating on him and he would fly into rages and was seeing a therapist. Bad luck for him. This therapist was a CIA guy. Yeah, Delgado. those old things with the bull where it doesn't charge because they're putting, it's a chip. You know, the brain chip has been invented a long time ago. So they put this in this guy's head without telling him, a brain chip. And then it turned him into, I mean, it just fucked him up, okay? And he ended up in a booby hatch. And the pain from, you know, because microwaves have to be transmitted to his chip. So the pain of that in his brain made him put metal trash cans on his head, because he's smart. He knew science things and what they were using, even though he was in pain. And then they started letting him use aluminum foil around his fucking head. And that's, so we get the term tinfoil hat from a guy the CIA mutilated and fucked up. And now we say it as a joke. You see how magic works?
DARPA invented the brain chip, bro. They gave it to Elon.
You're probably right.
You know that there's 3 things that will be revealed after our deaths that exist now?
What do you mean?
What?
There is a letter from Queen Elizabeth written to the mayor of Sydney, and she says, please don't open this letter until 2085. Or it's being held in a secret vault in Sydney, Australia.
Interesting.
Wow.
Like something big. But then there's a movie called 100 Years, the movie you'll never see, but it's starring John Malkovich.
Okay.
And it's to be released in theaters or to the public in 2115.
Really? Wow.
They filmed it in 2015, and no one will see it until 100 years goes by.
Lame.
What if they know exactly what happens to us and they just made it?
What if John Malkovich is a time traveler?
And then the last thing, which was super weird, Jackie Kennedy's bloody pink suit, the suit that she was wearing when JFK was shot, it's been held in a vault, secret. Like, no one's allowed to see it. And they said they will release it to the public October 26, 2103.
Weird. Why?
Alien blood.
Don't know.
Alien blood.
That film's going to be the letdown of the century.
There'll be no one left to watch it, bro.
Can we talk about some of the famous names that people around the world would know who, in your experience, have taken part in these rituals that you've conducted? You say you've conducted them in Europe and the United States. Can we start with the United States?
Yes, I have seen at rituals, I have seen George Bush, I have seen Madeleine Albright, I have seen Henry Kissinger, I have seen Ronald Reagan, also, by the way, seen his wife, Nancy Reagan. I have seen Hillary Clinton before I knew she was Hillary Clinton at the time. At these rituals, she is involved. The other people that I have named, and I have seen shapeshift into reptilians. I have not seen Hillary Clinton actually shapeshift, but she is involved. I have seen the 2 sons when they were young, the 2 sons of George Bush present at these rituals.
Are these the sons that have become governors?
Yes, one is in Florida and one is in Texas. I have seen, did I mention Jay Rockefeller? And he shapeshifts. I've seen George Deukmejian and Ronald Reagan again, having been governor in California. There have been people such as Newt Gingrich I saw, and I didn't know at the time that he was Newt Gingrich. I recognized that he was Newt Gingrich when Clinton came into power, and after he was, Newt Gingrich was then elected Speaker of the House. And I was horrified to realize that this man was also there. All of this has affected me to the point I don't vote. All of these people seem to all be connected to the Illuminati, and I don't feel like being part of having anything to do with them.
Presidents like Carter and Ford and Clinton.
I've seen Ford there.
Gerald Ford.
Gerald Ford, yes.
Are they all reptilian bloodlines?
I haven't seen Carter shapeshift.
You've seen him at rituals, haven't you?
Yes. Gerald Ford, I have seen shapeshift. And Johnson also.
Lyndon Johnson.
Lyndon Johnson.
I don't think people can shapeshift into reptiles.
They can, bro. They were here before humans.
I gotta show you something that I don't know how to explain at all. Either the government is building something
insane or this is aliens.
What is it?
You know Google Earth, right?
Yeah.
Do you have Google Earth on your phone?
Probably not, but I'm just gonna Google them.
Okay. Well, I will do it on my phone real quick.
Yeah, Google Earth on your phone?
Yes. I'll punch in these coordinates on my phone myself. And what I see is so wild, Mike. Pretty much, bro, when you punch in these coordinates on Google Earth, it will take you to this random part of the Earth that's like a barren wasteland. For miles, there's nothing. No town, no whatever. And the only way I can explain this thing is it looks like a portal or something, dude. Don't know how to explain this. I don't know what this looks like, Mike. That's the best way I can describe it. All around it, for miles, are hella tanks defending it. I swear to God. For miles, dude, the hella tanks spread out. You can't even get close to it.
And this
how many
is real.
tanks? And this is real.
What the
I'll show you right now.
Let me see.
Alright, first, I just pasted this okay? Look, it's in there.
Yep.
What the is this? And then zoom and look around all over the desert.
What the is this?
Mike.
It's like a Death Star.
Go around the whole desert.
Oh, no, there actually is like tanks.
Keep going.
They're hella spread out.
Hella of them.
What the?
Hella of them.
But dude, what is that black? And there's like something like looking across from it that like mirrors it too. What is that? What is this? Let me zoom out. Bro, that's in America. Bro, that's in California. Bro, there's for sure hundreds of tanks.
Dude.
All around though. And
you see how they're all pointing away from it.
Yeah, they're low-key blending in.
What the fuck is that?
It's either a portal or a gateway to hell.
Earlier, I spoke to the Culture Secretary, Oliver Dowden, and I began by asking him whether he thought the stolen Benin bronzes should be owned by Nigeria.
Well, I think that they properly reside in the British Museum. Now, that doesn't mean to say that we shouldn't work with the government in Nigeria to see how we can share it with them.
Forgive me, and I understand sharing, but they were stolen. Do you not think that they should be owned by the people that they were stolen from in the first place?
Well, I think that the problem with this, and of course, if we go back to things that happened in the 19th century and judge them by our values of today, it's completely unacceptable. But my concern about this is, where do you actually draw the line with this? The collections of our great national institutions have been developed over many, many centuries, in many times in questionable circumstances. I think the question now is about what we do with these. I love the Benin bronzes. I've seen them many times throughout my life, and I think them being in the British Museum, which is a world repository of heritage, allows people to see it. But look, that doesn't stop us from sharing it.
Okay, but ownership is key, right? Yeah. And the Nigerians say that when they get them back, they would almost certainly be happy to loan them back to you. But the fundamental problem is that they were stolen from the Nigerians and they want to own them.
I completely accept that they were acquired at a time of rampant colonial expansion in Africa, in the circumstances that I'm not in any way going to sort of defend or condemn with the values of the 21st century. I think, though, the more important question is how we ensure that the world can enjoy this marvelous heritage.
A letter will soon be sent, mandated under international law by the Nigerian government, to the British Museum, formally requesting return. You and I know that would also require laws, the Heritage Act and the British Museum Act, to be revoked or at least amended. Is that a realistic prospect?
No, we have no plans for doing that.
What a dickhead.
Yeah, it was painful to watch him squirm around. Just give people their stuff back.
With past AI architectures, you could kind of feed an AI system a certain amount of data and use a certain amount of compute, but eventually it hit a plateau. Mm-hmm. And one of the interesting things about these new transformer-based architectures over the last 5 to 10 years is that we haven't found the end yet. So that leads to this dynamic where Llama 3, we could train on 10 to 20,000 GPUs. Llama 4, we could train on more than 100,000 GPUs. Llama 5, we can plan to scale even further. And there's just an interesting question of how far that goes. It's totally possible that at some point we just hit a limit, and just like previous systems, there's an asymptote and it doesn't keep on growing. But it's also possible that that limit is not gonna happen anytime soon, and that we're going to be able to keep on just building more clusters and generating more, synthetic data to train the systems, and that they're just going to keep on getting more and more useful for people for quite a while to come. And it's a really big and high stakes question, I think, for the companies, because we're basically making these bets on how much infrastructure to build out for the future. And this is like hundreds of billions of dollars of infrastructure. So like, I'm clearly betting that this is gonna keep scaling for a while.
He doesn't have a soul.
Fucking hell, Ted. Remember, this is for entertainment purposes only.
How is this real? Alright, so now the NBA app is open. I'm gonna go to the Detroit Pistons versus the Bulls game. And now you will see that there's Watch Live, Multi-View, and Tabletop. So I'm gonna select Tabletop and look at this. It's so cool. Then it shows game time. You've got the logos that pop up. I can now watch the players. You can see there's 10 minutes left. 67 to 110. Shows the player's name right up above them.
That's incredible.
Nah, bro. They'll use it to read your mind.
This is Gennady Krokolev, a Russian scientist and clinical psychiatrist who said he could prove that thoughts and hallucinations could be captured on film. He died suspiciously in 1998, and most of his work disappeared or was made classified after his death. But why? What did he do? Well, essentially, Gennady took photos of his patients' eyes as they were having hallucinations, and when developed, the photos depicted their visions. He attached a Zenit camera and photographic bellows to an ordinary diving mask and replaced the glass with sheet film, then took photos once the patient reported seeing something. Here are the only examples I could find: antlers, a face, and a snake. With 117 patients confirming that the photos taken were in fact what they were seeing, Gennady's quote, "thought is material," seemed rather accurate, especially considering this was repeated relatively recently by more Russian scientists. But rather than working with psychiatric patients, they hired a remote viewer. They used the exact same photographic setup. Then the scientists stood behind a wall and held up numbers and shapes, and as the remote viewer tuned into them, someone photographed her eyes, and here are two examples. So how does it work? Well, it's suggested that the brain sends information to the retina of the eyes, which translates it into picture form and projects it out like a hologram, which is what we're seeing here. Maybe thoughts really do become things. What do you think?
The government took him out, bro. But we'll have to save that for next time.
Thanks to all our new members who have joined this week, and everyone gifting memberships.
Come and join the Discord, bro.
And as always, thanks for watching. Remember to like, comment and subscribe. And we'll see you in the next one.